Trent Friend up here in North Phoenix. So, but we invited him here to share his overwhelming knowledge of the Constitution as regards to the Second Amendment with you today. So please welcome Sheriff Mack.
Hey everybody, when I'm here every year, I always tell everybody to move in and look like we're united. Everybody move in. Everybody look like we're united. There should be one group in this country that's united. It should be us today. And we're united spiritually. We're united as mourners for what happened in Florida. Amen. We're united as gun owners. And we're united as neighbors and Americans. This is really a sad time, and I've heard a lot of stupid comments since that school was shot up in Parkland, but I've also heard some real powerful moments. And one of our good sheriffs from Florida, Sheriff Grady Judd, was just mentioning that he and other sheriffs are supporting arming our schools and training teachers and training former military and former law enforcement who are now teachers. That's what I do. I'm a school teacher now. And even the kids want that. Do you know what we do in schools? If there's ever a shooting incident, we put the kids on top of each other in a corner. Yeah. That's it. And we lock the door. That's it. And we don't even allow them to run. We put them in a corner and make them easy targets. And the kids don't like it. And common sense would dictate we don't like it. And the bottom line is this. There's only two sides here. There's two issues we're talking about. Complete gun confiscation and gun control, or we shoot the hell back. There's no other issue. There's none. We could get, oh, I know, let's get rid of the mean guns. So then the next guy that shoots up a school will use nice guns. I mean, can you believe the stupidity? Oh, look at the common denominator. It's an AR-15. Okay, so he uses an SKS next time. Right. Who cares what kind of gun? Okay, or he takes in 5 semi-automatic pistols. So they've already done that before too. We're talking about two issues here, and trying to discuss this with Democrats I know is very difficult because they have no common sense. I don't know if they have any sense at all, let alone common. But it's really hard to discuss this with these people because they think gun control works. And that's astonishing. And the bottom line too is, and I just did a radio show yesterday about this out of Chicago.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know. I talked about this and I said, do you really think, is there a Democrat in this country that thinks logistically we're going to confiscate and have gun control in this country after there's over 350 million, probably more than that, guns in this country? It's logistically impossible. But let me go beyond that, and that's where we get into the Constitution and to the Second Amendment. The bottom line of the Second Amendment, I've written 2 books about the Second Amendment. And yes, I'm running for United States Congress and the election is in just 10 days. But I'm not here to talk about that. This is not a political rally. This is a freedom rally. Okay? That's all this is to me. Okay? I have a gun on my hip right now. And it is not about hunting. I've never been hunting in my life. You can ask my son, he's right here. I've never taken him hunting. I don't hunt. I don't care if you do, that's your deal. I don't hunt and I don't care to. Why would I go hunting when I could go golfing instead? I don't get that. I know. It's a simple process. But, so I don't have guns for hunting. I have guns for freedom. That is it. And the bottom line, I've done a lot of research on the Second Amendment. I've looked at the intent of those who wrote the Second Amendment. And I've seen what the intent was. In fact, in my classes, we actually teach What did the Founding Fathers intend when they wrote the Constitution? And then 2 years later, the Bill of Rights. What was the intent of the Bill of Rights? And when the Second Amendment came around, do you really think the Founding Fathers were sitting around Independence Hall, put their feet up on the desk and went, gee, I think we ought to guarantee the right of the Army and the National Guard to keep and bear arms? How insane. And people are trying to lie to you and say that's what they were trying to do. No, there was an amendment to make sure the Army can keep and bear arms. And the National Guard wasn't formed until 140 years later in 1906, so it wasn't them either. It was the militia. And no, the media, you do not know what the militia is, and you do not know what the Founding Fathers intended and when they wrote the militia. The militia was the first 3 words of the Constitution. It's called We the People. And Mark was so right. We delegate these powers. We the people delegate all authority in this country. And there's not one of us in this country, in this state, or in this place right now that has the authority to take a gun away from our law-abiding neighbors. We don't have that. We cannot delegate it to our government. Even if we wanted to, we couldn't do it. Even because of an emotional knee-jerk reaction to a horrible school shooting, which is easy to do. We don't have the authority. And what was the intent of the Founding Fathers when they promulgated the Second Amendment? I got a simple answer for you. Are you ready? This might blow you away. Gun control in the United States of America is against the law.
Hello!
So now we got to look at one other fundamental principle here. What is government's role in all of this? What is their duty? What is their responsibility? What did we delegate them to do? What did we assign them to do? Where do we see that? I already heard part of it. That wasn't the whole answer, but it's close. There's 10 words in the Declaration of Independence, right after it talks about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or my ownership of property. It tells the answer. What is the government's role? What is their purpose for being here? Quote, and all of my students have to quote these 10 words. They have to have them all memorized. So I do. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. So then, we go over that, and I ask my students, I'll ask you the same thing. What is government's responsibility regarding freedom of speech? To guarantee it's protected and that my right to free speech is never violated. So what does the government do? They create free speech corrals, like they did at the Bundy Ranch in 2014. Can you believe that? I guess we can now, can't we? It's become routine for these people to say where and when we can practice our religion, or have freedom of speech, or peaceably assemble, that we get our permits, and so on and so forth. My dear friends, when it comes to your right to keep and bear arms, government has one role and one role only: to make sure that it is never infringed. In Arizona, the state legislature here has one role and one purpose. It is to make sure that your right to keep and bear arms is never impaired. So we have the national and the state constitution saying, shall not be infringed, shall not be impaired. Is anybody understanding those 2 words? If you're in government and if you're a Democrat, you don't understand those 2 words. You don't understand the rule of law. You don't understand law and order. So I want every Democrat and every liberal and anybody else who wants to come along, come to one of my classes. I teach at the Heritage Academy in Levine, Arizona. My dear friends, we shouldn't have to teach any of this. We all should know this. We all should read our constitutions. We should never be without it. Never leave home without it. I've had people ask me on planes questions about it. I pull it out and we talk about it. I really like it when the news media will ask me questions about it, and I give it to them. You need to study this for yourself so you stop all this fake news crap. Hello. And you know and understand for yourself what's going on. I actually had a student in my class said, do you know that we've had 18 shootings so far this year? No. Sheriff Mack, they call me Sheriff. And I said, I'm going to investigate that. It took me about 30 seconds to find out. CNN and some others were lying. We've had 25 school shootings since 1999. Okay? I wish I could tell you there was a good answer to stop these. But there is a good answer when they happen. And Sheriff Grady has said the same thing. Grady Judd, Sheriff Judd said the same thing I've been saying. We're not going to be able to stop them. We'll be able to prevent a few, I hope. But we can diminish the carnage once it starts. And that is to have our schools armed and trained and ready. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Thank you, Mark. And I've got to address this too. If I've told you the truth about what government's role is, what does that do then to forced government background checks? They're illegal. Oh, well, we got to have them anyway, Sheriff. They make us safer. Well, I sued the federal government over the Brady bill, and background checks started in 1994. Several states had them way before then. Chicago requires them. How's that working out? Are you going to tell me that background checks have been keeping us safer? They have not. They have failed miserably. Even if they were successful, would they be lawful? I don't know about you, but I don't trust a government that tells me this. Unless you submit and unless you subject yourself to our criminal background check, to our mental history background checks, you don't get a gun. They do not have that authority, my dear friends. We never gave them that. We did not authorize that, we did not delegate that, and we don't have it either. And I'll be the first one. If you make a DUI checkpoint, if you make that voluntary, I will go through it. And I will participate. You make a criminal history background check voluntary, I will do it. You force me, I will not comply. You do not have that authority. They don't have them at DUI checkpoints. You know what? Those are like Nazi checkpoints. You know what they do when you get up there? Let me see your papers. And you have to give them your papers or you get pulled over into a nice little spot where they start writing you all these tickets. Why do we act like Nazi Germany and the Gestapo and then tell everybody this is the freest country in the world? No, it's not. Let's follow the rules. Let's follow common sense. Let's follow common decency. And you know who the Constitution is actually written for? It wasn't written for you and me. It was written specifically to limit government. If you're on my property, I can tell you don't bring a gun in my house. Government can't do that. They don't have the authority. It's not their property. One of those employees keeping guns from us anywhere, they can do it at their house, but they can't do it on our property. And they certainly can't do it on public lands. The only thing government wants to do with public lands is to make sure the public is not on it. And you know what? I want to give a shout out to the Bundys. God bless them. And God bless the tyrant evil judge, Navarro, who finally woke up and saw that she was going to get in trouble, so she started blaming the prosecutors. And she threw the case out. Why? Because what we had been saying all along, the prosecutors were lying, fabricating evidence, and hiding exculpatory evidence. What a bunch of liars and cheats. And where's the national media on that story? These guys are a bunch of crooks, and yet they're putting innocent people in prison and jail? No more. No more. And where's all the federal employees that need to release Dwight and Steve Hammond out of their prison cells? What is going on? Man. So there's plenty of this going around. And last night I was talking to Rand Paul about that, Senator Rand Paul. We have got to establish a congressional committee that reviews all the arrests in Washington from all these out-of-control bureaucrats who are breaking the law every day. And the one point I want to make is I will reiterate what Mark said, because each of us has the right to be left alone. My dear friends, when I sued the federal government and won a case at the U.S. Supreme Court, it stopped gun control. It stopped the Brady Bill. It stopped Brady Bills 2, 3, 4, and 5. But it reinstituted an old-time favorite called state sovereignty. I actually had a reporter ask me what state sovereignty was. But so,
What is state sovereignty?
well, I've never heard of state sovereignty, but state sovereignty. That means there's no higher authority above us. And there's 50 independent states, countries, nations, governments in this country. And if the state of Arizona will properly exercise their authority, we would never feel the wrath of Washington, D.C. They are not our boss, and that's what I really love. When Justice Scalia wrote my decision, he actually said this: but the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. If we would only live by that throughout this state and throughout this country, we would have freedom and liberty restored to America tomorrow. So my dear friends, let's put freedom and liberty first. I totally agree with Mark when he said, even if it's stuff you don't like. And that's exactly how I feel. Frederick Bastiat said, the best government is the one we feel the least. And that's what we're after. God bless everybody. Thank you very much. God bless.